Hey everybody, welcome to Hump Day Hangouts. This is episode 396. Like I said last week, we're moving forward towards episode 400, which looks like it'll be happening in July. Should be a lot of fun. Also coming up later after July, actually in September, is POFU Live, but we're going to talk about that and a couple other things in a few minutes. First, I wanted to say hello and see what's up with the guys, and then we will do some quick announcements and get into your questions. So, Chris, how you doing today?
Doing good. Working on a lot of projects as usual. It's been like one of the busiest months, like since I don't know, quite some time. So yeah, like that's good. Weather is good. Hitting the gym as usual. Can't complain. And obviously summer is here, and tomorrow is public holiday here.
Oh, nice.
I'm not actually sure I'm gonna be taking off. So like more work.
Fair enough. Cool. Well, Bradley, how about you? How are you doing?
Good, man. Busy, but good. Happy to be here. I got a little bit of another couple minutes of presentation to do before we get into questions today.
I was going to look something up. I'll grab the link here in a second for everybody, but I think you did a kind of a bonus webinar for people who jumped in on the YACSS software from Jesper, right?
Correct. Yeah. On Monday, it went 3 hours.
Wow.
Supposed to be 90 minutes. It went 3 hours.
Would that still be available if, and I didn't ask you beforehand, so maybe put my foot in my mouth, if people take us up on the offer and grab it?
Sure.
They still get access to that?
They can still get access to the replay of that webinar. If they're in the mastermind, they get access to everything that I do regardless. Or they can purchase YACSS through our link and send in proof of purchase to support@semanticmastery.com. And we'll get you access to that bonus webinar. It's topical trust flow manipulation for cloud stack pages.
Cool. All right. Well, I just put the link on the page down below. If you're watching this on YouTube later or live now, head over to semanticmastery.com/HDHO. You can find the links to the YACSS, that's YACSS webinar. And then just get in touch with us at support@semanticmastery.com if you purchase, and we'll get you access to the bonus recording as well. Let's see. Yeah, had a couple other things. I just wanted to touch base on POFU Live and let everybody know about that. POFU Live tickets have gone live for 2022, taking place late September. This year it will be virtual, and we have early bird pricing going on right now, which is not going to last. If you head over to pofulive.com, you can check out the countdown yourself. Find out if that is the place for you to be. We've already sold several tickets. Highly encourage you to take us up on the VIP option. It's a little bit of a price increase, but the value you get there is a lot higher in the sense of you get to hang out with not only us, because we're pretty cool, but also with other attendees, with other speakers. And it's a more relaxed, right? Kind of a group thing as opposed to more of a presentation style. So if you're in the US, we will ship some goodies and the beer for the beer tasting to you. And we'll have a little bit of a guided beer tour, and then we'll have some time to hang out. Shoot the breeze. Usually it's a good time to get people talking about behind the scenes, the stuff they're working on, and a little bit more, how should I say this, unrestrained manner. So it's always a good time as well. Highly encourage you again to grab the VIP ticket, but we understand if that's not for you, just grabbing the main ticket and accessing POFU Live itself is still a great idea. So head over to pofulive.com. Like I said, you want to lock in the early bird pricing. Prices will be going up as it says on the page. So other than that, Bradley, do we have anything I was trying to think of some mastermind stuff. I thought I had something on the tip of my tongue there to share, but I think you've been wrapping up a bunch of stuff you've been working on, right?
Oh my God. Yeah. I'm almost cross-eyed for developing SOPs in Flowster lately. But I just released the fourth SOP or standard operating procedure in that sequence for what I'm calling the directory authority positioning model. So, it's I've talked about using my own niche-based directory, which is fantastic. We're going to talk very briefly about that when I get into the presentation in a minute, about how to start an SEO agency or how to start a local SEO agency. But yeah, so I developed over the last year and a half a directory site for tree services, for tree service contractors, and a whole kind of like prospecting and sales method from all that, and a bunch of automations that are built into high level. And so, and I've got just a lot of development into it, but that's what I started to really grow my own agency with, was using that kind of a method, which really does position you as an authority, right? Somebody searches tree service directory, boom, treecarehq.com is number one. It is nationally number one. I get at least 2 organic leads per week for my agency, specifically from that, which is awesome. That's with no outbound prospecting at all. So anyways, I'm doing a joint venture thing with Flowster with Trent, the owner and developer of Flowster. And part of that required me to develop SOPs for this whole process, this whole method that I've developed. And so that's what I've been working on for the last several weeks. I mean, literally just like dozens of hours per week on developing these SOPs. And I got right now as a list of 7 separate standard operating procedures that are in a particular sequence for how to build all of this. It took me a year and a half to build all this. Now I've got them all in SOPs so that people can go through, and in about a month, they can have built what it took me a year and a half to do. And that's like step-by-step procedures. You know, I talk about this often, but we still get this a lot where people say, well, I got your checklist, but it's not really an SOP. Well, of course it's not. That's why it's called a checklist. SOPs are full-on step-by-step instructions on how to do stuff, how to do whatever, how to execute tasks. And I don't just provide how to, I also explain why. There's always a training video at the top, and I always explain what we're doing and why we're doing it, so that it educates whoever's going through that SOP and executing the task on the reason why, right? Because just knowing, like, teach a man to give a man a fish he eats for a day, teach a man to fish he eats for a lifetime. So I always teach the why we're doing, not just the what or the how. And so anyways, I've been developing those, and I just released the 4th out of 7, at least currently it's 7 SOPs just yesterday. So that's now available, or it might've been Monday. It's all a blur. but in the mastermind, the 4th SOP has been added to that pinned post in the top of the Facebook group, guys. So in case you aren't aware of that, it's there. And that's how to configure high level for the directory agency CRM, or this directory CRM is what I'm calling that. It's a snapshot, and it shows how to configure all that. The next one that I started working on today is the marketing campaigns, the outbound prospecting campaigns, and how to configure all of that, set it up, customize it, and all that. So it's probably going to be, that one probably won't be completed until the end of next week. And then I've still got 2 more to do after that. But it's crazy because this is, it's a year and a half. It's been my most successful prospecting and sales method in my entire career. And I've boiled it all down into standard operating procedure and step-by-step format for anybody else to be able to duplicate what I've done in about a month versus a year and a half. And again, all of that is available to mastermind members. No additional money is required, but the only place you can get it is there. So I'd encourage you guys to check it out. Good enough? Adam's
Sorry.
muted.
Yeah, I had something I literally just got access to. Yes, that's good enough. I wanted to switch gears slightly. I think we've talked about, or everyone's aware of GPT-3, the OpenAI kind of AI writing tool. Well, I just got access to DALL-E, I think kind of a nod to Salvador Dali, but it's DALLE. And this is where you can generate images based off of text. So I was hoping this one would come out better, because I put in a camel in an office with a sign on it that says Hump Day Hangouts. It didn't come out quite right, but it's pretty awesome. Let me just share my screen real quick. This is pretty cool. I mean, this is a pretty wacky one to try to generate. But I tried some other stuff earlier, and it's pretty bizarre. Like, it's getting real good. I think having text on there is probably really difficult. But I wanted to share this with people because I think this is some of this stuff is what's coming. Like, we've seen text, it's getting better. Now we're seeing images that are generated from text, and that's going to get better. Then we'll start seeing videos and a lot more. So I think if nothing else, even if you don't use this type of stuff, being aware of it being out there is pretty important.
The one in the bottom left says "Ump's gay."
I was just like, yep, maybe text isn't the right one. I'll try to generate some fun ones, maybe share it while we get going here. I just, what I do, I said, furry goat on top of the Empire State Building. I mean, this is just wacky. Like, never thought you'd be able to do stuff like this.
That's interesting.
It's perfect for cold email.
Actually, yeah. So lots of possibilities. I mean, this is step one. I know there's already stuff, of course, there's like deep fakes and videos, but this stuff that can be generated on the fly, I think is really interesting and stuff we need to keep aware of it. If not using it again, just be aware, hey, this stuff is out there and it's coming.
Yeah, they've AppSumo, I don't know if it's still on, but it's called Deep Word, or yeah, I think it's called Deep Word, but it's like one of those deep fake like video where it's like an avatar and you can, program it to say whatever you want. And it looks like it's a person standing there talking and saying what you want it to say. There's a couple of them out there that do that. There's one, like I said, I picked it up on AppSumo. I haven't even started testing with it yet, but I think it's called Deep Word. But yeah, pretty cool. There's like I said, there's a couple of other apps out there that do that. One of them is I think called Send, but that one's expensive, really expensive. But it's also way more advanced. It's gotten, the deep fake video is a hell of a lot more clear and better because that's probably why it's so damn expensive. But they're coming, man. It's going to be hard to tell the difference between something real recorded or something that was made with AI. What are we going to do?
Which I mean gets into kind of, to me, it's a fun one. Oh man, sorry, I generated some more images and I will not share these. It gets into one where it's like, well, does it matter, right? If it's answering the question, kind of, I think about this, like, because you've seen some of these procedurally generated sites. And it's like, well, if it's answering the question and it works for the end user, doesn't matter, right. And it's like, yeah, it matters if it's true or not, because obviously that could be dangerous, without getting into fake news type stuff. Just like, hey, if it tells someone to, drink bleach to cure their sore throat, probably not a good idea. But so long as I think the content being put out is a good answer, then to me, that's kind of the deeper question. So yeah, interesting stuff there.
And it's really cool because like I said, I think, like I said, the one that's real expensive called Send probably does the same, but I think it's called Deep Work or Deep Word, whatever. The one that I picked up, it's cool because like I was trying to think, the reason I picked it up is because I thought, well, I do a lot of video emails, and that's the one thing that, that's going to be part of the SOPs that I'm creating for this directory authority positioning method. But anyway, the video emails do require, it has been me to this point. I'm going to develop an SOP for how to train and, hire and train somebody to do the video emails so that we don't, I don't want to keep doing them myself. So I don't expect anybody else to want to either. Why I started telling you that is because video emails work really, really well. But there's a way to integrate like this Deep Word or whatever, these kind of like AI generated videos with with avatars that speak, and do it like mail merge to where it will like speak directly to the recipient and do, like a mass email with video email that are customized to each individual recipient. And I can see that as kind of a way to replace having to record video emails personally, if that makes sense. And that's kind of the reason I picked it up, is eventually when I start testing with it, I'm hoping to replace myself with something like that so that I can do a lot more at scale. And I think that's going to be one of the most effective uses of it, in my opinion. So
nice. Well, before we get into the questions, just wanted to let everybody know too, a lot of stuff we've been talking about. We talk about this and deeper in the mastermind, speaking about this procedurally generated websites. That's something I talked about on the last mastermind webinar, which was really cool. I came across it online where someone was discussing how they were using these sites as mass keyword testers, and then how other people were using them for generating income, but they were using it to test keywords that they then would take the most successful and go and build them out on their money sites, which was fascinating. But anyway,
to watch that.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I put the link in there and everything. You'd love this probably. It's crazy. This stuff, it's like, oh yeah, like at scale, this stuff makes sense. If you're doing it one off, probably wouldn't make sense. But if you have a niche, you have something, man, you could really kill it doing it this way. It basically does your real world keyword research for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And all the keyword research tools in the world don't provide you the same amount of data as publishing pages and then seeing where they start to fall into the SERPs, like where they land in the SERPs, because that's always the best. That's we used to call that poking, right? We would do that we would poke keywords. And what that means is we would like slap up a mass page site or something like that with a bunch of keywords, long tails, and then plug it into Search Console and just let it, marinate, right? Like let it age or season for a little while. And then we just go analyze the Search Console data, and it would, click the box to show average ranking position. And it would start to show you the keywords that would rank like get to page one or close to page one without any additional SEO works, purely on page. And that's how you can determine what, and you can do it with YouTube videos too. Peter Drew has a tool called Live Rank Sniper that does that. It pokes keywords for videos to see which videos will rank on page one with like basically zero work, like zero off page work. And those were always like the best opportunities because you could extract those keywords that would start to rank with like no off page work whatsoever, strictly on page. And even that was like just, anyway, you could find the low competition keywords and then go publish an actual page with optimized content for those keywords and you're guaranteed to rank. You know what I mean? So pretty cool.
Cool. Well, speaking of the mastermind, if that sounds like something you'd like to hear more of, whether it's working with Bradley's, all of his SOPs, whether it's hearing about AI stuff, it's being around other people who are doing local SEO, whether it's agency owners, consultants, all that sort of good stuff, then the mastermind might be the place for you. You can find out more at mastermind.semanticmastery.com. Excuse me, man. Let's get into it.
All right. I got about just a brief presentation. I mentioned this last week, guys. I'm at the beginning of each one of these. I'm going to, for the next few weeks, it's going to culminate and all come together when we when I get the rest of these SOPs done, and then we're going to kind of do like a full-on launch for the whole directory authority positioning method. But so for the next several weeks, I'm going to do just a brief kind of like presentation at the beginning of each one of these Hump Day Hangouts for about 10 minutes. So bear with me. Let me grab the screen and we'll jump right into that. And then we'll get to questions. All right. So last week I talked about local SEO agency, like why should you be in local SEO right now? I showed this. I'm not going to recap all this, but this just shows like SEO company. This is Google Trends, SEO agency, local SEO for the last 5 years or whatever. It's showing that it's an increase. The demand for people searching for these types of terms is increasing. So that's always a good industry to be in. If you're in an industry that either has steady demand over time or increasing demand over time. Industries you don't want to be in are decreasing demand over time because a year from now, you'll have less of a customer base than you do now. Okay. So that's why local SEO, being in the SEO industry right now is a fantastic opportunity. I think there's probably been no better time in my career to be in SEO than there is right now because of the increasing demand. So we talked about that. We talked about what's interesting is that Google Business Optimization is the most commonly the service most commonly offered by local marketers, and it's also the service that is most requested by local businesses. Like in other words, that is the business service that most local businesses want. And what's interesting, and I should have actually added that into this slide deck for today because I talked about it last week too. But what's interesting is in this same survey, which is a Bright Local survey, great survey. You guys can check it out. It's the Bright Local Search Survey for 2022. They just published it in March of this year. Anyway, they talk about how the most important metrics to local businesses are in the number one position was local ranking, which means Google Business ranking. Number two was organic ranking. And then it was followed by leads and calls, which is crazy to me. Like, in other words, the most important metric to the businesses that they surveyed was ranking, not leads and sale or calls, but ranking, which I thought was amazing, right? Like, I mean, I thought that was crazy. And I guess it's a vanity thing for people to want, like that they just want to see themselves rank. And maybe, I mean, we all know that correlates to more phone calls and more leads. But, if you can produce leads without ranking, then what difference does it make? We're all SEO, so we're here to rank stuff anyway. But I found that really interesting. And again, you can verify my claim that I just made in that survey. That's what at least the businesses that they surveyed stated that was more important to them. So it's a great industry to be in. Oh yeah, this just shows that the average retainer for local SEO is $1,500 a month, and that is exactly what I hear from our students. My average retainer for tree service contractors is less. It's about $1,000 for me because the industry that I'm in, it's generally smaller companies, smaller organizations, just usually like the owner is actually an arborist or a tree contractor. So he's out working and managing just one crew for the most part. I got a few companies that have a couple of crews, but they're much smaller organizations. So my average monthly retainer is about $1,000. But from all the different kind of members that come into Semantic Mastery Mastermind, we hear over and over and over again that this is about spot on. $1,500 is a pretty average price for local SEO services. So it's a great industry to be in. And so today, very quickly, I just want to run through some high level kind of overview of what I feel is the most important things for when you want to know how to start a local SEO agency. And this is kind of the method that I recommend for members, because I feel like this industry is a bit broken in that people oftentimes they want to learn SEO, and I get that. I'm fascinated with SEO too. That's what kind of pulled me into SEO was, I became fascinated with it when I started to learn how to do SEO for my own contracting company. I'm a former electrical contractor, and then I ended up falling in love with it. So that's why I switched careers. But what I'm saying is, I think the industry is broken because oftentimes, or most of the time, people come into this industry and they think that as long as they learn how to rank something in Google, they're going to make money. And that's not necessarily true. In fact, there's a lot of people out there that can do SEO that aren't making any money at it. And so this is how I have found over the years is really the most appropriate way to start a local SEO agency or a local SEO company, is to go kind of through these steps. And this is precisely what I'm teaching with my directory authority positioning method, which again is, probably by the end of July, we should have that all wrapped up and bundled up. And you still, the only place you'll get it is in the mastermind, but we're going to do kind of a pitch at that point. So that's why I wanted to bring this up, guys, and just kind of walk through these high level steps as to what, if you really want to grow an agency, right? Start a local SEO business and grow it to where it's generating really good money for you and your family, then this is the most appropriate way to do it. Okay. So number one is to select an industry or even a specialization within an industry. And I say that specifically because, again, guys, when I finally started to drink my own Kool-Aid about 2 years ago now, when I decided to completely rebrand and focus 100% entirely on tree service contractors. Over the years, I would take any sort of client from any business, and then I kind of narrowed down to just working with contractors, but of any sort of contractor. And I still have clients that have been with me for years in various industries, mostly contracting industries, but some outside of contracting industries or home services. But it was at the end of 2019 when I decided to go fully back into, narrow my focus to specifically just tree contractors. And that's kind of where this whole directory authority positioning, like all of that kind of started there. And when I did that, when I finally started to drink my own Kool-Aid, right, would follow my own advice, which is to specialize, my agency started to grow and my workload lessened while my agency grew. And that's because, again, you learn the vocabulary and you develop the creatives, you understand what copy converts, like headlines, and you learn all of these things that work for a particular industry. And then all you need to do to scale is duplicate that in new locations, right? And so you don't have to continually learn new things. You don't have to continually test new things, because you figure out what works eventually for that one particular industry. And you can scale by just duplicating that over and over and over again. Nothing else needs to change. All you need to do is just swap out location details and contact information, and you can have all the templates built and everything else. So selecting an industry or even specializing within an industry is really going to help to set you apart, because also local businesses are, you don't go to a general health practitioner for heart surgery, right? You go to a heart surgeon. So why would you go to a general agency? Why would a local business go to a general marketing agency when they can go to a specialized boutique agency that specializes in their industry and their industry alone? Does that make sense? So you can charge a higher price. You also get local businesses that will start to seek you out. Just as I mentioned before, my directory site, treecarehq.com, I get a minimum of 2 leads per week from that. And that's just organic leads. Those are user submitted, like tree contractors, or sometimes it's SEOs, but most of the time it's tree contractors that are submitting their listing to the directory, and they go boom, right into my funnel to get nurtured to and followed up on and all of that, so that I can, try to create a sale. So Some industries, though, are too broad to just focus in on a particular, or too competitive to focus in on a particular industry. As an example, it would be like the legal space, right? The legal space is a big, big space. So if you're going to say, well, I'm going to focus now on lawyers. Well, there's a lot of different types of lawyers. So that's very, very competitive. And you'd be in a hell of a dogfight if you tried to just say, well, I'm going to do lawyer marketing, because there's a ton of different kinds of lawyers out there. So specialize in a particular type of law, like personal injury law. But even that is uber competitive. Trust me, that's super, super competitive. But there are specializations within personal injury law, right? And that's just an example. But like, there's catastrophic injury or boat injury or motorcycle accident or truck accident or workplace accident injury law or injury lawyers. Like there's all these different kinds of specializations within that. Which personal injury law is a specialization within the legal field, right? But then there's specializations within that. And so to like on more like a contractor level, there are tree service contractors. I've used this example before, but tree service is still fairly broad. There are arborists and certified arborists. That would be a more narrow specialized service within the tree service industry. Or there's like crane tree removal, like what requires the use of a crane. That's also, again, a much more specialized service that also is a high dollar service. So specializing within a particular industry is really going to give you the best chance of being able to make a name for yourself or your agency and become a big fish in a small pond versus a small fish in a large ocean. Does that make sense? So, and you can generally charge higher prices. The businesses in that provide that specialization will start to seek you out or your agency out to provide them services because you speak their language, you understand their business, their pain points, all of that, their customer base, all of that. So step one is to select an industry. Step two is to develop a case study to show as proof that you can deliver results. So that could be like just a test site or lead gen asset, which is getting harder to do because it's hard to verify Google business profiles now, unless you have a valid business. But you could even do a site and rank it organically and then use that as an example to show. And that's why I mentioned here, hint, a niche directory site works great for this. Because guys, when I'm pitching a tree service contractor now, all I got to do is tell them, are you in front of a computer? Yes. We'll do a quick search, tree service directory, and tell me what you see in the #1 position. And they say treecarehq.com. Aha. So do you think I know what I'm doing? Like it's that easy. Like, so again, having a niche directory, which you can rank with very little work, to be honest with you, because again, especially if it's specialized, then you can point to that directory to prove that you know what you're doing. Does that make sense? And so again, I think a niche directory is a great kind of case study that you can use to prove that you can deliver results, because you can point to that once it's ranked, which doesn't really take a whole lot of effort to rank a niche-based directory, guys, trust me. Number three would be to choose one service to provide. Again, it's just the same as trying to be a generalist agency. So I know a lot of you probably think, well, if I narrow down to a particular industry or a specialization within an industry, I'm going to really narrow my pool of potential, clients. But no, that's not true. You actually increase your ability to land clients. And the same thing goes with if you try to offer too many damn services. If you try to offer, what do they call it? The paradox of choice. When you have too many choices, when you present too many choices to a prospect, they get confused. They don't know what to purchase, and they don't make any purchase decision at all, or they just avoid it, right? And so have just one service to provide. Whatever it is that you decide you want to be your leading service, that's what you pitch, right? You focus on one service. An example would be Google Business SEO. That's what I've always focused on. And that becomes your pitch. Everything that you do in your marketing message is around promoting that one service. You can do other services, but you don't even introduce that into the conversation until after you've closed the client for that one service. Does that make sense? And you develop a relationship with them. Then you can do add-ons, PPC and content marketing and, video stuff and, all the different things that we can do. Email marketing, if you want, remarketing, retargeting, all of the different things that you can do. You can always add that on after you've closed them for the one primary service that you lead with, right? Your primary service offering, which again, can be Google Business SEO, can be reputation building, whatever it is that you want. Just pick one service and lead with that. All of your messaging should be around that one service, right? And once you close a client for that service, you can always upsell them and cross-sell them and everything else for other services. All right. Then the other thing is have a scalable system in place for fulfilling that service, whatever it is. So either have SOPs and a team built already that can fulfill, so that if you start landing clients, when you start landing clients, you don't go through the up and down, the peaks and valleys that we often see, again, from members in our mastermind and everything else, which is they fire up their prospecting and they get a bunch of leads in, and then they turn off the prospecting so they can work those leads, right? And then they work the leads, they might get close a couple of clients. And next thing you know, they're in the fulfillment stage where they're fulfilling. And SEO is front end heavy, as you guys probably know. You spend a lot of time getting the rank to initially rank. You spend a lot of time and effort to get something to rank initially. Once it's ranked, it's easy to maintain. And that's generally when people start to prospect again, is once they've done all that front end work. So the point is, if you want to keep a steady stream of leads coming in and do it, constantly making your pitching clients to close them, you need to have a scalable system in place for fulfillment. So that means either have a team in-house with SOPs and everything available so that you can add more personnel to scale as you grow, right? Without requiring you to turn off your prospecting and stop selling, so that you can help the team to fulfill the clients that you just closed. Instead of that, you either have to have a system in place that can scale as you bring on new clients, or you need to have a trusted third-party fulfillment provider that you can outsource, essentially white label fulfillment provider that you can outsource the work to. Either way works. But, again, what's less work? Having a white label fulfillment provider that you can trust, that you can unload the work to fulfill for the clients that you're closing, so that you can continue prioritizing prospecting and sales above everything else, which is step number 4. Prioritize prospecting and sales above everything else. That's where you should be spending your time, is prospecting and sales, refining your pitch, right? Selecting one prospecting method, just like I said, select one service, and all of your messaging should be around that one service, right? You could always cross-sell and upsell at a later time once you've closed somebody for that service. The same thing goes with prospecting method. Choose one and stick with it until you make it work for you. Don't try it for a couple of days or a couple of weeks and then go from cold email to display ads or YouTube ads, and then shift from that to social media outreach, and all. Like, don't do that. Stick with one thing until you get it to work, which it would be like in my example here is cold email. Cold email still works, guys. Still works great if you do it properly. And that's where, like I said, if you select one prospecting method and you stick with it, you start to generate results. It's going to take some trial and error, I'm sure. Everything always does, but you'll dial it in. Once you dial it in, now you've got steady stream of leads coming into your business so that you can focus on refining your pitch through repetition until you have a winning recipe. And once you have that, and by the way, any of the leads that you don't convert because you fucked up your pitch, for example, and again, that happens, right? Like whenever you start going through the sales process with prospects that you've generated, the first few times you're probably going to screw it up, right? You'll be nervous. It'll come through. You'll be desperate sometimes because you need the money and all that. And you'll ruin your chance of closing that client, but that's okay. You'll learn, you'll get better through practice and repetition. You'll get better. You'll refine your pitch. You'll find out what works, what has to be said, what questions to ask and everything else to convert that prospect into a paying client. And for those that you don't convert, you put them into a nurture sequence, right? You've already, the hard part's done. You got them into your list, into your funnel, right? Into your orbit, so to speak. So you'll be able to remarket to them through, nurture those unconverted leads with educational emails, remarketing, direct mail, etc., until you convert them into, at some point, hopefully in the future, you'll convert them into a client. So and remember, the hardest lead to generate is a cold lead, right? So once you've generated the lead, you want to make sure that you have some sort of follow-up in place. And if you focus in on what I just mentioned right here, guys, I know this is kind of like just a high level overview and I went over on time. I know we'll get to questions in a minute, but if you focus on these right here, this is how you can start to generate money. Like, we all get into this business to make money, but oftentimes it's like, well, I'm going to learn, I'm going to become a ninja at SEO. And then I can, that's going to provide for me and my family. Not necessarily. And generally that's not the case. There are a lot of really good SEOs out there that aren't making any money. And it's because they don't have these systems in place, right? Prospecting and sales as a local SEO company owner or local SEO agency, consultant, or company, you should be focusing on prospecting and sales, number one, because money solves problems, guys. If you've got money coming into your business, consistent revenue, profit coming into your business, you can fund all kinds of growth opportunities, right? You can hire hire personnel and train them to fulfill so that you can continue scaling. You can branch out into other prospecting methods. You can pay for advertising, right? You can do all kinds of things that you can't typically do if you're broke. Dan Kennedy always talks about he who can pay the most to acquire a customer wins. In other words, whoever can spend the most to acquire a customer and still be profitable wins, which again goes back to money solves problems. So if you have a boutique agency, a niche specific agency, you can charge higher pricing, which gives you higher profit margins, which now means you have more money to spend and reinvest into your business. And then also, again, having a niche agency that can produce higher money, that can help you to generate more revenue, that gives you an edge over your competitors because now you can spend more to acquire those customers. That makes sense. So again, we'll pick back up on this next week. I'm going to talk about kind of pricing structures and things like that too. But hopefully that was useful, guys. Now we'll get into questions. I don't know where we're starting now. Think here. Okay. Okay, guys. I'm done preaching about that for now, but I'll be back next week. So the question says, you mentioned during a presentation, step-by-step agency building training. Is this an ongoing training? Yeah, that's what the mastermind is. The mastermind is ongoing training. There is a coaching webinar that I host every single week on Thursday. And it's all about, well, every other Thursday, it's about SEO. And then every other Thursday, it's about prospecting and sales, automation, outsourcing, hiring and managing personnel, systems, automation, all the other stuff that goes into running a business. We do like every 2 weeks, I do a like mostly SEO training. And then on the other Thursdays, I do training about the directory agency stuff, as well as, just prospecting, sales, and running a business. Because, again, there's a lot more to making money from SEO than just knowing SEO. If you want to run a real business from it, there's a whole lot of stuff. So yeah, that's what the mastermind is. Next one. Hey guys, is it possible to put HTML files into our Drive stack folders? Does Google read these files like HTML files on S3? I don't think that's possible anymore. A couple of years ago, they killed that. You used to be able to use Google Drive to host HTML sites, single HTML page sites. I think they killed that a couple of years ago. So no, as far as I know, you cannot. I actually saw this question before we started today, and I was going to try to do a quick test to see. I'm pretty sure they killed that though a few years ago, like two or 3 years ago. But just take a simple HTML file, go to Notepad and go, find a simple HTML header, put it into a Notepad file and save it as an index.html file, upload it to Google Drive and go visit it and see. My guess is it's just going to render in the page as a text file. But again, I haven't tested that recently. I think they killed that though a couple of years ago. So, but just go test it. Like again, create an index.html file, just a simple file. Go put it into a public Drive folder if you have one. If you've ever bought a Drive stack, you probably have a public Drive folder, and then just go visit the URL and see if it resolves or renders as an HTML file, or if it just shows the text, which is what I think it does now, but I didn't get a chance to test it. Okay. Raisa, what's up? She says, how are you using Twitter for SEO now that links are all do follow? Well, I don't. I actually just heard about that yesterday. I have never had any desire to do anything with Twitter. I know it's powerful. I get that. I've never been interested in Twitter. I've even tried to force myself to become interested in it a few times, and I can't stomach it. I just have no desire to do it. Although, like I said, I just mentioned to my partners yesterday, because I think it was Chris, it was one that told me about it yesterday. It's something that I probably should test. But again, I have no desire to do anything with Twitter, man. I don't. Just the same as Facebook. I don't care about Facebook marketing. I really don't. I know I probably should, but I don't. I just don't have any desire to do it. So, and I'm at the point in my career where I just want to do stuff that I enjoy doing. And I love SEO. I love link building. I don't like Facebook stuff, and I don't like Twitter, but although there's probably some really good things you can do with it. I mean, shit, Jesper's been teaching Twitter moments SEO and stuff like that for, months now. And he's been, before they changed the links to dofollow, and he was getting crazy results. So I know it can be done. It's not something I particularly care to do. So, but go check out Jesper's training, jespernissen.com, I believe. Go to his training courses and you can pick it up. In fact, I'll just pull it up for you. Yeah, jespernissen.com/courses. And you'll see he's got a Twitter Moments SEO course right here. And it's a great course. So I'd check it out. If you're interested in Twitter SEO, this would be a good starting point. Maybe he'll be updating this with some new tactics as part of like the change. I just heard about that yesterday, like I said. So I do not have any time in the near future to even start testing with something like that. I've got a couple other things that I'm working on for lead gen, for Google lead gen stuff that doesn't require Google business profiles because of the fact that it's harder for us to verify profiles now. So I'm trying to develop some methods to get around that. And that's what I'm focusing my R&D time, right? Research and development time on. So Twitter is not even on my radar right now. Anyway. Next says, good day, gents. I trust each of you well, and thanks as always for everything you guys do. You're welcome. He says, my question, I have a prospect that runs an insurance agency actively seeking. I have a prospect that runs an insurance agency actively seeking for SEO and marketing services. Currently, they are ranking top of the 3-pack for name brand search. But obviously with insurance, at least 5 ads dominate the search. They have limited social media, incongruent naming, and posting only every 2 to 4 weeks. Cookie cutter posts. Okay, no syndication, limited amount of videos, no press releases, and from what I can tell, no GMB posts either. Their focus has been on backlinks and on city pages. Current results are about 100 organic leads per month. Based on the above, what MGYB services do you recommend or believe would be best to increase their leads and enable me to show some quick wins and help land prospects as a client? Honestly, I don't know. I haven't even logged into that in months, guys. It's no longer part of Semantic Mastery. When Marco, a former partner of ours, left at the end of September of last year, they took that store with them. So I don't have anything negative to say. I haven't been logged in. I haven't really purchased anything from that in many months. So I'm not even really familiar with what's still available in there and all that. So I can't really tell you what specific services over there to purchase. I can give you some kind of high level advice, which is what I'm about to do. But they're focused on backlinks and on city pages. Current results are about 100. Okay. Yeah, I mean, so basically in what you just described, that's a lot of, you've kind of answered your own questions as far as like, what can be done. Google Business Posts is important for local stuff. If that's what you're desiring to improve is their local ranking. Google Business Posts is still a very important part of that, especially if you use posts for SEO purposes to augment and to kind of help pages on the site rank too, right? You can use Google Business Posts for that. Also, I'm sure that they are still selling the SEO Shield, which is the drive stacks and G sites. That's all part of it. Those are tier 1 entity assets. Still absolutely use that as part of my strategy. I don't think that'll ever go away unless Google kills Google Sites. So it's still something that I do. I don't particularly use them to fulfill that anymore, but I still use drive stacks and Google Sites. It's still a very, very, very important part of what I do. Creating I've talked about this almost every week, guys. We talk about this, but Syndication Academy is still valid, even though it's not so much about syndicating anymore. It can be, but IFTTT and Syndication Academy is our product. I encourage you guys to join that. It's inexpensive. It's a monthly fee, but that's because every 2 weeks, Essie, our awesome trainer she does weekly, or excuse me, every 2 weeks, she does an update webinar for Syndication Academy. Even though we're not syndicating, that's not as much of a priority anymore because IFTTT went to paid accounts, and that's fine. if you're dealing with one client, get a damn paid account. It's like $10 a month, if that. I don't even think it's that much, but the IFTTT Pro account is what you need to be able to do syndicating to a lot of different services, what they call applets for. Anyways, with the free account, I think you only get 2 or 3. So I don't really focus on syndicating anymore, but where Syndication Academy is still incredibly valuable is every 2 weeks, SE goes through additional profiles, like platforms that you can build a branded presence on, how to optimize, how to create the account, optimize the account, and then interlink when possible to other branded profile accounts. And that's how you constantly add nodes to the knowledge graph. You are assisting Google in building a knowledge graph for the brand or the entity. And I'm telling you guys, especially for local, I'm sure it works for everything, but all I do is local. It becomes a tipping point when you have added enough nodes and done the interlinking to help make those associations between the brand and the entity and all those different nodes in the knowledge graph, which are just, having a presence on other platforms and then interlinking where possible, because that's how it helps to make the associations. There comes a tipping point where you hit kind of like this critical mass for the brand and its local area, where it just all of a sudden will boom. It's like it blossoms, like it ranks, and then it becomes damn near unmovable. And I mean that. That's the truth. And I talk about this every time I mention this, because I have a lot of tree service. I'm in the tree service industry for my agency. And every year I go through spring and summer where I'm prospecting and landing new clients. I always bring on a bunch of new clients or lead buyers between spring and summer, right? Or during spring and summer. And then every single winter, at the onset of winter, around, November-ish time frame, I end up losing about 60% of those clients because they want to pause their SEO subscription or SEO services during the winter, because naturally tree work slows down in the winter. That's just what always happens. And they always tell me, I always hear, or generally always hear, we'll be back in the spring and to start it back up again. And generally by springtime, they still haven't moved. They're still ranking. And it's because of what I just mentioned. A lot of that has to do with, like, if you establish the entity and you strengthen the entity enough that it ranks and it stays ranked. And that's kind of it's an ongoing issue. I have a very high attrition rate every year because of that, because I'm in a seasonal industry. And it is what it is, but I've just come to accept that. And but yeah, that's why I said, like, Syndication Academy is something I would recommend for this as you said, they're not doing a lot of posting and everything else. Well, there's a solution. Start posting more regularly, specifically Google Business, using kind of more unique posts with optimized images. Just put a damn QR code on the images. That's the easiest thing to do now, guys, is just use a QR code generator to use and superimpose a QR code onto your images that has a link back to your Google Map, your Google Business website, various pages on your money site. The QR code be linked, can be hyperlinked to whatever. And you just, and there's some QR code generators out there that you can embed a logo into the middle of the QR code. Those are great because now you get the brand recognition as well as the QR code, which Google reads that and understands what it's linking to. And so those are great to put in Google Business posts. So doing that, Syndication Academy, constantly expanding the entity footprint, right? So again, getting a presence. Citations, guys, we've all done that for local for years, right? But it's more than that. The unstructured citations or non-traditional citations, which is like anywhere you can get a presence online. Particularly high authority profiles, platforms is where you want to go. But then interlinking them, like I said, if you've ever looked at a link, like an image of a knowledge graph, it's a 3-dimensional shape. It's a geometric, like 3-dimensional shape. It's a bunch of dots everywhere with lines connecting those nodes. And that's how you can manufacture or engineer the knowledge graph, or help Google to build the knowledge graph for an entity, is by doing that. So that's, again, something else I would recommend. Get them to spend a little. I mean, you said they've been focusing on link building in local pages, and that's good. But proper silo structure, that's still valuable. There's a lot of things that can be done. Okay. Nigel says, "What's up, man?" He says, "Happy Wednesday. Is there an assessment tool or combination of tools that can be used to assess the opportunities to provide services to local businesses who have a budget for SEO and marketing and are attempting to do it yourself, but they know that they need help, simply looking for a less manual way to collect and present problem areas that I can help solve for what I know, for using what I know, or in what I've learned, of course. And the MGYB it's funny. It's been 8 months, nine months. It's crazy. Anyways, your help is always very much appreciated. All the best, Nigel. Yeah, there's several. I mean, if you have a SEMrush account, they have the agency prospector. Bright Local has one. David Sprague has what he calls the local analyzer. They're a dime a dozen. You can get, you can just find those like SEO audit tools. That's what you should just search Google SEO audit tools or apps or something like that. And just pick one. You're probably going to need I mean, again, if you have SEMrush, their agency prospector tool will do that. But any sort of those tools where you can plug a website in or drive traffic, local business, business owner traffic to, and you can do this with cold email, right? You can do it with cold email. You can do it with ads. You can do it with direct mail. Direct mail still works, guys. Trust me, direct mail still works. In fact, direct mail is a great way to break through the noise and get to. But what I'm saying is, you could set up one of these kind of like SEO audit apps that has a landing page with the widget embedded in there that you send prospects to plug in their company, their name, address, and phone number, or their website address, and it will generate a report that ultimately has calls to action to contact you to fix the issues that the report shows. Right there again, there's a bunch of different apps out there that do that, guys. SEMrush is one, I know that one, and I use Bright Local. David Sprague, like I said, he has this called Local Analyzer that does that. But there's just a bunch of them out there. That's something that you can very quickly plug and the other thing is, you just mentioned that has budget. Well, go look in the ads section, right? Like whatever keyword it is that in the industries that you're interested in, just do some Google searches, and there's some tools out there there's a really good one called PPC Ad Lab. Has this PPC Ad Lab. I think it's ppcadlab.com. They've got this great tool that basically will tell you, like, it monitors Google ads for keywords across in specific areas and for on a set schedule, and it will show you who the advertisers are and how often their ads appear and in which position and all that kind of stuff. Well, those are the guys spending money. You know what I mean? Like the people that are buying search ads, Google search ads, they're spending a ton of money to generate leads for their business. Well, there's your SEO crowd. You know what I mean? Like those are the people that are screw going to Google and looking for anybody outside of the 3-pack. And those are your target market, because think about that. A lot of those people are broke. Right? A lot of the people that are not in the 3-pack or not on page 1 in the organic section, those are the companies that are broke. They don't have any money. Or they likely don't, or else they'd be ranked, right? They'd hire SEOs if they had the money. So that's why, like I said, going to Google and searching and then opening up, outside of the 3-pack and looking for prospects there. Those are the broke prospects. Like those are the ones you don't want to send to, because they're likely not going to, and I know I'm painting with a broad brush. But instead, go do the same search for the same keywords and then look at the advertisers. Those are the ones spending money, and then go cross check and look to see, are those advertisers ranked in the Maps pack or in organic section, or one or the other, or both. And if they're not ranked on page 1, either in the Maps 3-pack or in the organic section, and all they are, their presence is only in the search ads, those are the ones that you can prospect, because they're spending money, right? Because they're in ads. But that their SEO sucks, or else they'd also be ranked, right? And so those are the ones that you want to target, are the ones that are spending money on ads, because then you can approach them with actual data and show them, like, hey, I know what you're paying per click, at least close by just using Google's own data from Google Ads. You can get an idea of what they're paying on a pay-per-click basis, and you can understand like what industry averages are for conversion rates. And now you can go and say, okay, well, based upon the search volume for this keyword, and based upon the fact that you're top ranked in the ads section, and looking at the average cost per click to be ranked at the top of the pages over here, and knowing that the top section of the ads gets 15% of the overall monthly search volume, that now you can multiply that out and show, like, okay, this is how much money you're spending on ads, and the moment you stop spending money, your traffic stops. Well, you can redirect some of that budget for SEO, and I can get you results, and you're not paying on a pay-per-click basis. if that makes sense. So this is how much money we can save you by investing in SEO instead, right? Those are the prospects that have money is what I'm saying. And you can use data to show them how you can save them money by investing some in SEO. Okay. Okay, keep moving. Chad says, I have several clients that have city pages on their website and mini rank quite well, but I still have some stubborn ones on various sites. I'm planning on dropping some CTR traffic to each page, but I think I need to build some backlinks to each page as well. Yeah, you probably should. And then send some referral traffic through those backlinks. Don't send referral traffic through shitty backlinks. Make sure they're decent backlinks and then send referral traffic through those. I'm wondering, and press releases are really good for that too. I'm wondering if I could make a city PBN with CTRify and then use a PBN to link out to my city pages on each client's website, multiple clients on the same cities, different industries. I was going to use YACSS to build stacks to each city page, but I heard there were indexing issues. Yeah, there can be indexing issues, but there's ways to resolve that. But yeah, you absolutely can. I just taught about this, Chad. I know you asked me a question in Facebook Messenger. You really ought to join the mastermind. I did a big part of the mastermind webinar last Thursday about specifically kind of what you're asking here, and I'm developing a whole plan around using those AI generated sites. It's crazy. I've invested $5,000 in the last 2 weeks on those sites. I'm not kidding. So you ought to come join the mastermind, man. I did like 45 minute part of the mastermind webinar specifically about what you're asking about. Yes, that is a strategy that you can use. And then the good thing about that is you can run referral traffic through those sites. Those sites are keyword clustered sites. All the posts, the minimum is 40 posts on those sites around one keyword. So it's a super clustered site. So what you do, and I'm not going to give it away here. I talked about this in the mastermind. You want the strategy, come join the mastermind. End of story. I'm not going to give that away here. So, but yes, you can do that and get results.
There is a question there from YouTube.
Okay, Evergreen SEO. Okay, what's up, Alfredo? He's in our mastermind. Local Fury question. Do we need to add a separate email to the GMB to make it work? I don't know what he means.
Yeah, Alfredo, if you want to get in touch with us, it looks like you just placed an order too in the beta. So if you just want to shoot a ticket and support, we'll get you sorted out. And if there's something with the order already, and you just submitted, we'll get you sorted out. Don't worry about it. Just create a ticket, get in touch with us, let us know what you mean, and we'll help you out.
Yeah, that would be a question. Also, let's see, Alfredo. Also in the mastermind, you can post questions in the Facebook group there. Remember, this is a free webinar available to the public. So sometimes there's things we don't want to talk about here, but yeah, just use support. We'll get your question answered via support. Next one. Do you have an example of a good script, like a pitch script for a prospect customer? Yeah, I mean, yes and no. I don't have anything I can share with you here, but I just use the spin selling methods. That's the whole point about, guys, spin selling. If you don't know, that's a book, SPIN, situation, problem. I can't remember and then it's need payoff. Anyway, it's a book by Neil Rackman, I think it is, Rockman or something like that. But it's called spin selling. That's the method I've been using for sales for years, for digital marketing, SEO sales. It works really well. And here's the thing, when you position yourself as an authority, which is what you do when you're a niche specialist agency, a boutique agency that specializes in one particular vertical or industry, and perhaps a specialization within that industry, you are already elevated as to an authority position, okay? Versus a Me Too agency, a generalist, which is like, a jack of all trades, master of none. You're a master of that particular industry or that specialization within an industry. So it becomes a lot easier. The whole sales dynamic changes when the prospect seeks you out versus you forcing yourself upon a prospect, if that makes sense. So when you position yourself properly, then the sale becomes so much easier. It really is it's an exercise in question answering. And that's what the spin selling method is you just ask the prospect questions and listen, shut up and listen, ask the right questions in the right order and listen to their answers. And they lead themselves to make the decision that you're their solution to their problem. if that makes sense. And that's where the whole directory authority positioning model that I've been mentioning, that I've developed over the last year and a half, really puts you in that position as an authority, and they seek you out. And again, it's just, it's different when you're trying to force a sale upon a cold prospect. Then you have to be a lot more aggressive, and you have to convince them first that they have a problem. Then you have to convince them that you're the solution. When you position yourself properly, they already know they have a problem, and they look and seek you out to be their solution. And then it's just a matter of information gathering to close the sale. And that's essentially, again, if you want to learn an effective sales method for high ticket items, or for high ticket sales, or for sales with a monthly recurring with a recurring fee, like a monthly retainer type, like what we sell on a retainer basis for SEO services, spin selling is by far the best or most appropriate sales method. And it's about asking questions and everything else. And again, that's why positioning is so important. Dan Kennedy says, stop prospecting and start positioning. And I totally buy into that, because I've seen it happen in my own business since I focused in on tree stuff, if that makes sense. So I don't have anything I can share with you, but that right there is go pick up Spin Selling, get the book or the audio book, and follow it and start practicing it. And you'll get better results. Do you think we need to find a sales guy to do the sales myself, or do the sales myself, because technical stuff and sales are two different things? Yeah, it depends. If you suck at sales and you just don't, and you don't want to do it, then yeah, it might make sense to get a salesperson. I generally recommend that you start learning how to sell first before hiring somebody else, because you can kind of dial in what works. And it's not fun at first, guys, but once you, again, if you position yourself properly, sales become a lot easier, because they already know that they already have a really good idea that they already know they have a problem when they seek you out. So again, it changes the dynamic, but I'm not crazy about sales, but that's why. So cold sales to cold prospects is not something I enjoy doing. I know we're over on time, guys. I'm about done. But again, when I get about 3 weeks ago now, I landed a new tree contractor that came to me through my directory. And it was super easy. Guy left me a voicemail message, because I don't ever answer my phone. I don't answer cold calls. And so he left me a message on my business line, said, hey, I'm looking to get some help with some tree service for my, some SEO help for my tree service. Give me a call back. And we played phone tag for like 3 or 4 days. And then finally we got on a call. And it was one of the easiest sales I've ever made. And it was, again, because he already expected me to be an authority because of the directory site and kind of the presence that I've made. And that is a hell of a lot easier. And so I hated selling before, and I probably still wouldn't want to do it if I was doing cold sales and like trying to sell to cold prospects. But a warm prospect or a lead that seeks you out first, it is so much easier. The whole kind of experience changes, because now they already are expecting, like, they know they need help, and they're looking for you to be the one to provide the solution. And that's what works best for me. So. But yeah, if you suck at sales and you have no desire to do it, you can either bite the bullet, force yourself to get better at it, which is kind of what I recommend, at least initially in your business, to figure out what works, what messaging works, which pitch works, all of that, which questions to ask. And then once you kind of dial it in, you start to have some success, then you can outsource it and guide a salesperson into the process that you've developed so that they're more successful. It's hard if you're paying salary, like it's hard to find a commission only salesperson anyway. But if you're paying a salary, like a base salary plus bonuses or commissions and things like that, you could end up pissing a lot of money away for them to never be an effective salesperson, which is why I recommend you dial in the sales process first, and then you hire it out, because then you can give them kind of like a game plan, a standard operating procedure, if you will, for what works in selling to that particular type of business owner, if that makes sense. So anyways, okay, guys. Last one. I have an agency. Sorry, guys. One more. Hey, Bradley. Happy Hump Day. I have an agency that focuses on B2B clients. Do you think a service like semanticlinks.io or even YACSS would be backlinking that would be effective for B2B SEO? Also, would the video lead gen system be useful in this type of environment? Yeah, and that's the video lead gen system is still part. Like I still use that video email process as my directory prospecting or authority positioning. I'm redoing that into an SOP though. Before it was just training. I'm building an SOP around that, which will be another one of the SOPs in the sequence that I've just mentioned. Will semantic links work for B2B SEO? Of course. Link building is link building, guys. I do specifically link building for local businesses. All the link building I do is around ranking, both in maps and organic ranking. That like is developed specifically for local stuff, but link building is link building. It will absolutely work. YACSS is part of link building. And I use that in my link building business, if that makes sense. So, but yeah, if you have any questions about that, I'm not here to pitch you guys on that, but on my sales page, semanticlinks.io, you can schedule a call with me. Seriously, just schedule a call with me. If it's something you're interested in, we can have a chat to determine if it's a good fit. Okay. I'll even do a competitive analysis for one location for free, so that I can show you kind of like the way that I analyze and like show you with data, like here's what the competition is doing. Here's what we need to do to win, to beat them. Right. So really I use data to determine how to structure the link building campaigns. And I can show that to you if you schedule a call with me. So anyways, okay, guys, thanks for everybody being here. We'll see you guys all next week. Thanks,
everyone.
for sticking around.